Hello and welcome. It is the crypto day morning for today's date, Saturday, 16th day of March 2019. My name is Derek. All bets, trades of the like within each his own risk and their own reward. NLC2, I have a buy order ready at 212. I have a sell order ready at 319. And if it sells at 319, I'm going to sell really aggressively at about 336, 338. I'm going to have to take funds from the hardware wallet to do so. I'm not going to do that yet. So I got some of it in a sell order there, meaning every time this goes up like 13%, I'm going to sell. So 13% ago would have been 319, under 300. And then every time it has like gains of between 40-50%, I want to sell more. And well, that's where it lies from my last buy order at around 220, 218. So therefore, that's why I want to make a more aggressive sell. And then when I sell here, I'm probably going to look to buy that back at 212. That 212 buy order will slip down to about 182, and all the other short-term ones will stay intact. And then I'll be looking to sell my next big long-term one at a price point of about 500 and something, 525. Let's move on to the next coin. That is AID coin, AID. And it's set up right now within this 18 average, within this resistance line or horizontal ray at 12 and a third. I just really like this setup. What I really like is how we have this 18 average of lows. The last time it was touched was on March the 4th, and it has stayed above it ever since. But the highs are getting higher lows rather are getting higher and higher every single time. And today's low is in at 1180. I was mentioning before how it was doing nothing at 1,000, how impressive it was. And then it supported, but actually was moving. And now then it was supporting this 1097 or 1100-ish area. And now it was for supporting 1138. And now it looks like it might want to do even a higher number than that. This thing to me just looks ready to break out. Moving on to Komodo. Interesting large volume here. Does Binance share the same thing? We will see in a second. But the price action after making this high not seen in quite some time did retrace back to where it came from, but where it came from on an upper area. For the last 3 days have been holding in there, staying above the level of resistance in which it encountered throughout the months of February, but mainly the end of February and the first day of March on Binance. It most certainly shares the volume as well. And to me, this is buying volume. Somebody bought this up very big, of course, to encounter that kind of volume. And now volume can come to me peaks, turning points, all that sort of deal, and a start of a big bull market is what one of them would be, and of course a price high that we would not see for quite some time at the 38 handle would be the other one. Given how this thing on the weekly chart is only trying to break out, I'm on the case that I think this one has got great potential moving forward. Moving on to Gigabyte DGB, which is making a move above the 18 average of highs on the weekly term. On the daily chart, well extended above its 18 average of highs. Day number 4 of this pausing of this I'm going to say monstrous move only because of what it's had, but it can do better. Its day was a low of 326, a high of 399, so the differential of price was 73 basis points, and that works out to 25%, and it can do better than that. But that's still a good volatile day. And we have seen continuation of just staying within that range, holding, establishing a level of support. We can see that that is in the general area of about 354 Satoshi. It did once go down to 351. So the low 350s is the area of support since that move higher to 4. Established resistance we can see is coming in at around 361 and up to about 367. So therefore we'll say the low 300s, low 360s rather, is that of resistance. So everything from like low 350, like 352 to 368 is the sideways consolidation, breaking it to one side or another, basically getting above this high, seen at 375, 377, lifting off in this type of area here. That is looking pretty good for potential breakout above that 4. And if you start to see it around 346, 345, then a move back down to any of this area where it came from, 345, would be right now a test of this 18 average of lows. It would have to go a little bit further to about 342, even 339. And then 18 average of highs. The next one below that, you got this consolidation range of 320. But I think the 300 level would be the big level, even though it's a pierce below the 18 average of lows in here. On the weekly term time frame, the 300 level is merely where the 18 average of highs is flattening and starting to break out of. So definitely most certainly a major level. But these things can just go and go high. And if it ends up breaking the 400, then we start to talk about how high can it go. And as I mentioned, a 25% volatile day on the daily. Well, it's been the best it's had in a long time, but it can do much better than that. Ethereum on the daily term time frame had this nice move from early February, which ended up topping at the a few weeks later. It has since then 3 times hit support at a Fibonacci level at about the 34 handle, and has today's session attempting to break above the highs on the 18 on the single hour term time frame. This is an interesting hour because almost everything goes down at 8 o'clock, and I'm just going to move this into Litecoin and Bitcoin. So let's move on to LTC against the fiat. And its current price is in at 60 on Bitstamp. This thing had an interesting decline. And I don't think it was, let me just recheck again if it was global. This is the 1 minute here. Let me just take a look at a larger exchange. And no such luck here. This is the Binance one against the Tether. So I'll use this for today's video. On the hour term time frame, this price does only go down to 59.45, but after it had its breakout at 1900 hours or 7 p.m., we'll call it, what city do I want to use for this video? Montreal, Quebec time. It went up from 58 all the way up to about 62, several hours going sideways, basically from 10 p.m. Cincinnati time all the way to 7 a.m. Washington, D.C. time. It managed to go to 61. And I had a hard time trying to think of a random city, something in the area. Cincinnati I came up with. I guess Detroit could count. Also, Maine should be, I have to think that the very most northeastern part of Maine should be in at the Atlantic time zone. I mean, it's just too far away from New York City. Anyway, getting away from northeast Maine, which is pretty much Nova Scotia, I guess, sort of. This is a nice breakout for Litecoin. Daily term time frame breaking out to day number 2 above the 18 after finding support on the 18 average of lows. Several of days going sideways. And on the weekly term, after breaking out above this level of resistance, just 3 days going sideways, establishing such again at 54, new resistance that would have been. Well, this candle, this particular week, it has already supported it. I still think this is poised. Well, obviously I should still think that because nothing's breaking the pattern and it's still looking good. That this thing is ready for a 2x move, and who knows there after that. But I think on a break of this resistance from this time frame, the next key level of resistance is in at around 125, and I would even expect closer to 138 to 150. But I don't think 100 is going to be much more than short-term level of resistance. As I stated on the way down, I didn't think it would have been support. And the reason why I didn't think it was support was because of this 111 level here before. And that's exactly why I'm not thinking it's going to be resistance here. Thus, maybe on the hourly time frame or 5 minute time frame, it might find a bit, but I'm not counting that when I'm referring to even the daily term time frame. I'm not expecting much there at all. Let's finish it off within BTC. Actually, no, let's go Litecoin against Bitcoin and then Bitcoin against the dollar, which is currently priced in at 0.01509, we'll call it, or 1509 handle. I sold it at the 1550 something handle earlier last night. I did so for DGB, so it was just a means of of a trade where I flipped out. I sold about 98%, 97% of the DGB or the Litecoin that I bought the last time I traded it, which was then selling DGB for Litecoin. And I did that back in here. It was 144 or something. And I ended up selling in this, or excuse me, I bought uh, about 10% more of the DGB that I most recently sold before. So gaining DGB, gaining Litecoin, doing this strategy. On the hourly time frame, we're going to see again same thing. This 8 o'clock hour, but in this case here, it retraced downward, not through time, as the price of Bitcoin, of course, having a good night itself. And its hourly time frame, it got up to 4,038 against the, at least on the Coinbase exchange, it did such. It has now since retraced back down to 39.63. But as this goes on the daily term, there has been several hits on this point. I'm just going to put the 18 average of lows in here. I'm just trying to read it. Trying to, it's easy. 38.11, 39.05. So therefore, I could just minimize this. This 38.05 number, because yesterday's low was in at 38.46, today's low, it's in at 3,900. And if it can hold this area moving into tomorrow, maybe even find a way tomorrow to hold 39.30, then this 18 average is only going to start to escalate at a very nicer rate of ascent. And thus, it's not. It's an attempt still to hit this level. Do I count this as a pierce below? Almost close, pretty bad. I mean, way piercing below. But it does look as if this thing's poised to continue on further to the upside. Come to this level, have this test. Where we go from here, this is a situation, the prediction I hate to make. That's when you're at a key level of resistance. You have successful but a very good price correction, a good amount of periods or time to get back to it. And well, this 18 average band, that's 3 weeks going sideways, so very successful point. And it's got to make a jailbreak one side or another. It attempted to do so once on February the 27th and again on March the 4th at that downside, failing very quickly. This one isn't failing right now on the attempt, but it hasn't succeeded it yet. So getting up there, the situation I don't like is what are we going to do from here? Now, I think this makes it easier and easier when you have multiple hit resistance like this, and your last time has a spot where it makes a very good productive higher low for me to give the bias to the upside, meaning that it would hold and stay above what would look like the key area, like 3,900. That is the most I would expect any type of pullback on a bullish level to come into place. Comes up here, say to 41.25 or whatever in that area, coming back down to this, which is only a differential of like 2.25, 5-6% daily term time frame. That is very extreme low volatility, as should be the case if it's making a higher low amongst this area. But getting above this area, this is where it gets very big. And I'm going to change this to the Bitstamp exchange because of all the lines I have here. But this line at 63.55 where it came from is a big fib point. And before that, we got the 48.5. We'll call that around 5,000 since they usually pierce extra. And now in removing these, we can see that this is a market having continuous low, tiny green candles. So the volatility overall is extremely microscopic right now in comparison to the moves in which they had. And the sellers aren't coming in, the buyers aren't majorly bringing it up. The overall sideways range is at the upper end of it now, 4,100. The lower end, well, the problem there is it came down to 3,140 and it never has came back to it yet. So it's been a one-hit level support at 3,140. And then even here at 33 or 3400, it's a one hit as well. Although compared to the 3100, it has managed to spend a lot of time there, 4 periods. But that's all it's had. And since then, it's just developing a nice little uptrend line. So there's really no majorly established levels of support within this sideways range. It's almost more of an ascending triangle, which is following a down move. And the best way of pointing this is, what does the 18 average show? It shows it was declining and starting to flatten out. Usually these trends revolve themselves within the path of least resistance or the current trend, and we can see that's been down. But when the current trend preceding it is as much as it is to the upside, I can't give it an amazing case for that to be true. And if anything, when you look at this on the long term, the sideways range, if it's going to correct itself, well, if it's within the trend, then it's going to do so within on the upside, because obviously the monthly chart, well, it's in a very similar situation to the way it was back in 2015, it looks like. But whether it does the same, I mean, we'll wait and see. But as it's playing out, this thing looks ready to go. And because the resistance has been tested quite so often, I like the support move. I think that the likelihood that we make the next break higher to the high 4,000s seems very, very likely. After all, if I think Litecoin's going to 125, do I think that this is just going to go flat and stay at 3,900 or 38 or just barely go up to 41, 43? I don't think so. Homie, don't play that was a line from In Living Color. Homie D Clown, I think, was the name of the character, and I think it was played. Was it played by? It wasn't played by. Oh, Damon Wayans. Let me just pause the tape. And it was David Wayans who played that. That was a sitcom that was going on, I would have to think, in the early 1990s. They were doing so because of the extreme popularity that in Saturday Night Live was having, which to me was probably the best skit comedy series, Saturday Night Live, from about 1986 through 1994 or 1993. And that's when that was popular. So anyway, yeah. The chances of this having a good game, if Litecoin's going to 125, I would not be surprised if this thing, if literally, if that matches together, maybe this squeeze goes to 54, 53 even. And this might only go up, say, well, from 4,000 gaining 1,300 points, 1,300, then that's what it would be. And then just maybe it might even say, you know what, screw this 5,000. We're just going to go up to this next level at 63. And in a matter of whatever period of time, we have Bitcoin 63 or going up that of, well, better than 50% from 4,000. And if that's the case, that would make, I guess, a lot of sense if Litecoin's going to go to 125 because, well, if, say, this went to, say, 5,000 and Litecoin went to 125, then the ratio of LTC, that would just plummet to the upside huge, which I kind of would rather have, actually. But, I mean, the market's obviously going to do what it's going to do. I'm just going to let it do such and then trade accordingly. Thank you for tuning in. Have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.